talking at this moment, please. What we're aware, whether it comes into the book of Exodus, when we read the Ten Commandments in Shemot in that of Yitro, or we read it particularly in Devarim and V'yat Hanan, we read the Ten Commandments. We automatically read, of course, honor your father and your mother. But what we need to know is that in the book of Exodus it says something else. Honor your father and mother in order that your days may be long on the earth. We never know that what we're able to do is honor father and mother as much as we can in order that their days, right, could be long on the earth. I didn't use in my words, but I want to be able to say to you that we read from the prophet, Ma Hashem doresh mincha, what does God request, demand, expect of you? So before we even come up to an answer, the rabbis already have interpreted and says, don't read it as ma. Don't read it as what? Read it instead as meya. Read it as 100. So the idea of having 100 is, what can you expect from somebody? All we want you to do is keep going. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
And whether it wound up being that Orchard Cove made the possibilities, etc. But each of these communities in the world had a special value for Esther bat Yaakov HaKohen B'Tzipora. So now in our tearing ribbon, it's our also the fulfillment of honor thy father and thy mother, that this is close to the heart. Right? So you're putting yours on, or you want to borrow this one, whichever.
Put it on
On the left-hand side, put it higher up.
The chair at first.
No.
The one in the white shirt, the yellow shirt, and the woman in the
Yeah, he's good. But those two here, that's the one.
Yep. Okay, good. So our timing worked out right. Okay. In our tearing, it's not the idea of the goal of tearing clothing, even though that becomes a physical sign, demonstrating to anybody who would see you and see your torso, I see you had a loss, and then somebody is able to say, I can't just see that without doing something of a response. But it's two parts of it, because it's saying that now, once we have said Kaddish, the family has entered Shiva just until 5 o'clock on Wednesday. And it also means is once Shiva is over, it's your chance to be able to say, I know what you're going through when you see somebody else in mourning. And you know how to be able to say, I want to wish you comfort. So let me tear as you come, the three of you together. As I said, it's not just the idea of the tearing, it's also that we'll be able to make a bracha. Just tear it a tiny bit more, it's crepe, and it'll go right through if you tear too fast. So we'll say the bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam dayan ha'emet. Praised are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, the judge of the truth. May the name of the Lord be praised forever and ever. You know, I and others here, and those who cannot be here physically, wish you comfort. But even more than that, the reason I use that English translation that God is the judge of the truth is you all have your own stories. You're not identical. You know the times of interaction. You know the times of closeness. You know the times of reconciliation. You know what you learned from each other. And what it also means for us is, God, I want you to remember this story. So I hope you hold on to comforting stories, and especially the ones that you know that you brought wonderful things to Esther and to Shimon. Okay. We can all be seated. Those of us who have been familiar with my cell number, 703-1158, the first time I got called for a wrong number on it, it was because Dov Goldman, he's part of the Chevra Kadisha, the burial society for holy treatment of the departed. His is 703-1185. So now you know both of our numbers. Can I give this Kleenex box another purpose? Chris, is this on?
Oh, sorry.
It's on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. First, I have to give the family something. In January of '09, this is pass it down. This is a certificate I created for Esther and Shimon's 60th anniversary. Who was to know that in May, right, we would be swallowing hard. There's so many different psalms. Any one of them would be right, because Esther was a Payatanit. She was one who could write religious poetry. And she followed from those of the medieval time that had that immense skill. I don't know if text is in front of you, but those of us who want to follow with me in the 23rd Psalm, in Hebrew as well as in English. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar. B'nodeh sheyarbitzeni al mei menuchot yenahaleni. Nafshi yashovev yancheni b'maglei tzedek l'ma'an shemo. Gam ki elech b'geit samavet lo ira ra ki ata imadi. Shiftecha umishantecha hema yanachamuni. Ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged sorarai. Dishanta v'Hashem en roshi kosi rivaya. Ach tova chesed yurdefuni kol yamei chayai. B'shavti b'veit Adonai liyorech yamim. Whatever English you possess, except one part. The King James Version says, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me the days of my life. The Hebrew translation into English is properly, surely goodness and loving kindness. Loving kindness is what surrounded Esther. Loving kindness is Esther bestowed upon Shimon, Zichrono Livracha. And loving kindness asks for no thank yous. It's just because. And the ways that we can enhance someone's life with additional dignity. So in our English, that's why we're going to say surely goodness and loving kindness. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no harm, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. You've anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and loving kindness shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So one of the things that Esther never passed up an opportunity of being able to do teaching. So allow me to teach something. First thing it says, for you are with me. You can't imagine how many thousands of people were drawn together in that for you are with me. And the efforts that Esther made to go all kinds of places in the world to be able to bring teaching that she could uniquely offer. But for you are with me as we're going into the new year, 5785, it's not ironic that she died before the new year started. It's instead that you have an assignment to yourselves of holding on to blessings, memories, great memories, unbelievable memories, memories that are so expansive that you can't even say them all, which is why I can't quote for everything that's appeared in public. But there's another one, and that is, he restores my soul. Can't imagine what it's like, except as a rabbi uprooting and going on to other places. That was Esther. Uprooting and going to other places and finding that chance of restoring her soul. But she didn't just do that. She restored souls of other people, didn't she? She transformed souls. And she had a way of being able to make people feel good about themselves. So that's a psalm that tells us something about an Esther and us. There's another one, and that is that we read sometimes in Yizkor, sometimes in different kinds of recollections, Adonai Adam vateda ehu, uven enosh vatachashvehu, Adam lahevel dama, Yamav Katsel over. Lord, what is man that you have regard for him? Mankind that you take account of him. Man is like a breath. His days are at a fleeting shadow. But I would want you to know that verses a little bit later talk about grass growing. That's what somebody who planted herself in Israel was paying attention to, grass growing and trees growing, right? But it also says to us in the limited existences that some of us have, not all of us expect to aspire to something like 99 or 100. What can we do for people? As you taught me about the scholarship program, that's doing for people. That fits in perfectly into the system that Esther would want us to all hold on to. So Esther taught the world there's no such thing as just a tree. Isn't that right? No such thing as just a tree. A tree is always of something else. It either has purpose, it has holiness, it has beauty, it has possibility. And for her, it was a teaching vehicle in so many zip codes of the country. So some of us are remembering that in honor of one now of blessed memory, Esther Bat Yaakov HaKohen V'Tzipora, Esther Asher Adler, a Megillah of Purim, the book of Esther, was commissioned years ago. That was for Eitz Chaim, wasn't it, in Cambridge, by her family in her adopted New Massachusetts synagogue. The book of Esther, when read on the Purim festival, reminded our Jewish people that the vile and evil people against them will not reap success. Following the text, that Esther, who became a queen, was clever, innovative, dedicated to her people, was able to walk in all kinds of sections of society back in Shushan in connection with Purim. But what does it mean to have a book of Esther? You can't put enough in it. You just can't. She was an incredible soul, a friend to many of us, as well as an ima and a savta and an isha tova v'nehederet, an amazing wife. And I remember when she saved Shimon's life with her diligence or persistence dealing with his undiagnosed cranial blood clot. There are only 10 chapters in the entire book of the biblical Esther. No one can count how many chapters there are in this book of Esther. In these many cities and countries, with an outlook that was seasoned from Kristallnacht, the days that made people and her own Jewish people such an amazing priority. There was no limit to her love for Israel, its very soil, and the land that she nurtured and worked and tapped as a teaching tool for every Jewish age people. It was my immense and unforgettable privilege to have met Esther in 1998 and to build a great bond for decades. At the time when I had spoken to many of you, when beloved Shimon ben Tzviva Rachel Zichrona Livracha had died, I said there was a significant scholar listed in the Mishnah, Shimon HaTzadik, Simon the Just, who is known for teaching that on 3 things the world stands: on Torah, and Avodah, and Gemilut Chasadim. Torah, our legacy, our teaching; Avodah, service, worship; purpose of synagogue; and Gemilut Chasadim, acts of goodness and loving kindness. And for Esther, all of these and more: Torah, learning and education; service and worship, acts of goodness that have eternal qualities to them, and how she prioritized them and exemplified them. What an amazing human being. What multiple lasting qualities were embedded in a woman who didn't stand tall in feet and inches, but towered over so many people and accomplishments, in thoughtfulness, in learning and dedication to others, sometimes selflessness, productivity, impacting others. Some might have looked upon her as one of the world's first influencers. so this way, the threefold teaching is clearly applying to her, but it's not like those people on the internet. She had adaptability. She had sincerity. She believed in service to others. Some of you are aware that Esther was my friend, actually friend to Annette and me, with Shimon, as Esther had been my synagogue president at Temple Torah, now Torah Emet. We envisioned together a preschool, a school wing extension, a negotiation with the United Synagogue so that younger families could flourish in a senior congregation. It all lived up to her dream, and then some. I was able to see levels of her wishing to bring healing to the world in ways that many people would never have known. I remember her calls to Gerda Meyer, of blessed memory, and to Teddy Wasley of a mitzvah squad, to people who were confined, ailing, bereaved, alone, lonely, perhaps hungry. And it led to levels of healing, inclusion, validation, and above all, love. We all simply borrowed from Esther and her budgets of time that she shared so generously. We're thankful for that laugh that went along with a tremendous amount of insight embedded in her. She took so seriously as she sat in the Boynton president's office, worrying about some of the members of the congregation who were dealing with struggles. Esther was my mikvah lady. She came with me for the 7 a.m. dipping, as she called it, her mikvah, the Atlantic Ocean, for women converting to Judaism. And she even braved ocean currents in the water to ensure that our female converts had privacy. I would want you to know that Esther loved both English and Hebrew literature. She could perhaps understand my choice of Chaim Nachman Bialik, who wrote a poem, Acharei Moti, after my death. And summarizing it, it's the story of a person who says, after my death, eulogize me in this way. There was a soul, and behold, no longer, died before his time, and the song of his heart and his life stopped in the middle, and it's sad. One more song was his, and behold, that song is lost forever. As we know, there had to be more songs and more poems that were flowing through Esther at the time that she passed, that she had never gotten to write them down. But think of how many she did, and think of how many ways that she used that in order to decorate the lives of people around her. So we in the family today are so saddened, but there cannot be at age 100 the right time to die. Better than most of us through Esther's teaching, testifying, challenging, uplifting, she served God. And she reminded him that his people had worth, could meaningfully care about Israel. She reminded others, Jews and Gentiles, Americans and Europeans, not to disregard episodes of the Holocaust era, nor their own nation's complicity in the Shoah. Isn't that right? Her weaving in Temple Torah of Holocaust survivors into her volume, From Darkness to Great Light. She was able to encourage them to write down, to record their own thoughts that they might not have shared with anybody else in the universe. And she got them also to take on the honor of candle lighting when we did Yom HaShoah. But so many of these poems, prayers, songs, books, short stories, interviews, articles, inspired, instructed, reframed, transformed that many of us. Through books and writing, she demonstrated her love for and love of her family, Shimon Zal, Andy and Ann, Faye and Stuart, Jerry, and the next generation of her Nachas, Moriel and Tobin, Emma and Benjamin, and closeness with her brothers, Henry and Abe, Elsie, and Marvin, alav shalom. As I read through the Torah reading of this past Shabbat, I kept coming across verses that told us about Esther. Psalm 27, one thing I ask of the Lord, that I might dwell in his place, in his house, in his sanctuary all the days of my life. And think of all the different places that she made her holy presence known in those places, in Sayasit and all the other locations. But also in this past Shabbat of Nitzavim, Vayelach, we read, you're standing here today. Moses says, through God, everybody of all the walks of life, those close to the Jewish people, some who are here and some who are not here. What does that mean? She took all of the stories of people of the Shoah, that was part of her fabric. And that she said that's got to be for those people who are beyond this point. So I think about Esther, that she would write for those in front of me, wherever they were, back in history, or the ones who will be the new readers of the books that she has written for JNF, Karen Kayemet L'Yisrael. Many times people live and do well and do good and do amazing goodnesses for people, not always lasting for the later generations beyond our time. But Esther ensured that for the generations beyond her time and our time. There's so much here to embrace. I'm grateful to those people who gave ongoing purpose to Esther's life, purpose, expansion to reach 100. But I'm also grateful for those people who kept me informed, to know what was going on as this ambassador by way of her writing and her generous spirit and her wit and careful judgment and teaching in places throughout Massachusetts. They were keeping Esther a priority. So I'm thankful to Harriet Samuels for her frequent calls to keep me up to date about Esther. It allowed me also to think about when I had Esther fly to honor me in New York when I received an honorary doctorate. So my wife Annette was her roommate in Israel for a Jewish Federation mission. Just as she reflected, she knew that she had to juggle so many things and step in so that her children could continue their teenage years and activities, while she taught, while she corresponded, while she maintained the network of the family. So how do we comfort ourselves today? And how do we give sensitive solace to her children and others of her family? The well-known English writer Carlyle was concerned about books of his library that he lent out. And he created a book plate, which was a candle. Underneath the candle, he had a motto that says, I burn that I may be of use. We certainly, those here, those by way of Zoom, and those of blessed memory, saw Esther, who was a candle, wasn't she? She herself was a creator of books and dedicated to people, to the Jewish people, to Israel, to God, for synagogue. And she and Shimon helped found synagogues, both in New York and in Florida. And certainly Esther bat Yaakov HaKohen v'Tzipora was of sacred use to God's divine plan. May her name, soul, and memory be for a blessing. And let us say, Amen. Esther was not skilled in singing on key. On the other hand, we're able to be immersed in melody that tells us something about love, as Faye will be. So as Faye is coming up, we know from Proverbs in chapter 31, it says, her children come forth and call her blessed. This is able to sing it as well.
Thank you, Rabbi, and thank everybody for coming. And I know my mom often said, gee, I have the feeling but I don't have the great voice. Neither do I, but I think we'll just be all in the spirit, and that will carry us through. So I'm Faye Adler, Greenleaf, Esther's daughter, and again, privileged to be here with you all. Rabbi spoke about love and kindness, love, and this is a song about love and unending love. And I think if we just feel for a moment the unending love we have for Esther, be it as a family member, a congregant member, however you connected with her, so let's just feel that connection for a moment. And in response, we can feel Esther's great love for us. Whoever we were, we were in her life, she always recognized each person, took so much interest in each person, followed through, what's going on with you, how are you, and just, able to receive wonderful love from her. And then just reaching out and beyond in this beautiful world of nature and thinking about the love that comes through the Creator. And unending love, as it says in the song. So I will kind of hum the tune, and there's a chorus that repeats. You're welcome to join in, whatever your voice is, or just to feel it in your heart. We are loved, loved, loved by an unending love, by unending love. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love, by unending love. We are embraced by arms that find us, even when we are hidden from ourselves. We are touched by fingers that soothe us, even when we are too proud for soothing. We are counseled by voices that guide us, even when we are too embittered to hear. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love, by unending love. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love, by unending love. We are supported by hands that uplift us, even in the midst of a fall. We are urged on by eyes that meet us, even when we are too weak for meeting. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love, by unending love. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love, by unending love. Embraced, touched, soothed, and counseled. Yours are the arms, the fingers, the voices. Yours are the hands, the eyes, the smiles. We are loved by an unending love. Thank you.
Two thanks. One is to Faye for bringing us into a melody that we could hold on to. The second one is to Rabbi Rami Shapiro, the one who had written this particular rendition. Now I'm able to invite that jury. Do you need this moved, or you can get around it? Okay. You're good? You're good?
Yep.
Okay.
Good morning. Oops. And that was a test. Okay. Morning. Wrote things down to say, and as I started, I changed it slightly because I realized the last time I was here was about 15 years ago when I spoke for my father's death to say goodbye. And together we're here to honor the life of my mother, Esther Adler, Esther Adler, the matriarch of our family. I'm going to recall some of the history which many of you are familiar with and some other comments there. A century ago, 100 years. You can say that 100 years ago, you were alive. I mean, she made her entrance to this earth. It was February 21st, 1924. It was Germany there, Breslau. Now it's Wrocław, Poland. She's the only daughter of three brothers, Henry, Mordechai, and Abe. In 1939, at the age of 15, after Kristallnacht, She was able to finally leave Germany to Palestine. She had to be 15 years old to be in the program. In Israel, she lived on a kibbutz Ma'ar Barot. There are many stories to be told about that. In order to say, she lived 100 years. I could probably speak at least 100 minutes about her life, but I won't. So just on the note of being brief here. Thank you. In 1947, after the war, she met my dad, Shimon, on the freight boat to New York City. They quickly fell in love with one another. They corresponded by mail. He went to Colorado to be with his father, Herman, but they corresponded by mail, not email. Okay. My mom lived with her family in New York City to be with her mother, who was ill. At the age of 24, my mother married my father in January 1949. The foundation of my mother's strength drew from those early years before, and this was just the beginning of their amazing and challenging journey. My mom's background of Hebrew knowledge helped her move into a new career eventually. She studied at the Hebrew Seminary and earned a bachelor's degree. Living in Plainview for many years, she raised the three of us, me, Faye, and Andy. And just totally amazing with so many things she did. She learned how to drive a car eventually, and in between giving private Hebrew lessons, she taught me and my brother to find time to teach us to drive. Loving wife, my mom was married for over 60 years and a caring, loving mother. Her personality shone throughout her life. An educator, she touched so many children's and adults' lives, an avid reader and an inspired writer. And she has written stories and books to assist students to learn about Jewish history, the Holocaust traditions. Her poetry is renowned by many. In the 1980s, when they retired to Florida and Boynton Beach, where they remained together, they were very active in the synagogue, the educational wing there. My mother was involved in committees to make sure things happen there. And as I said earlier, in May of 2009, my father died at the age of 88, and he's buried here. My mom, Esther, and the term Esti was the term, affectionate term, my father used to call my mom. My mother, sensitive, caring, insightful, compassionate, strong-willed, and occasionally gullible. She was goal-oriented even in the most mundane chores. Mom had a way of organizing and doing things step by step that worked for her. She was very methodical. Her gifts and talents with her words were recognized wherever she went. She was modest about her achievements, but that does not mean she was not proud of what she accomplished. Judaism, synagogues, the Holocaust, and Israel were of high importance and a priority through her life. A Zionist and lover of Israel, my mom exhibited her courage and pioneer spirit after Dad died. She left Florida to the cool climate of Canton, Massachusetts, to be near my brother and his family, of course. She resided in Orchard Cove for the last 12 years, and there she was quickly recognized for her warmth, sensitivity, intelligence, creative gifts, and loving nature. Not everyone knows this, that English is her third language. German and Hebrew are her first two. And as the rabbi pointed out, she wasn't noted for her singing voice, but she gave voice through her writings and education. There are many ways to give a voice. Singing is not the only one. She has been a sister, a wife, mother, aunt, friend, teacher, educator, a role model, and inspiration to so many people. She has lived a life of passion and purpose. She will be missed and remembered by each of us and so many more people. She leaves behind a legacy of published Jewish educational material, poetry, interviews online, other written materials, stories, and lectures. She is the Bard of Orchard Cove. Thank you all for being here in her honor and remembrance. with love and light and peace to all. May we never stop caring, sharing, keeping our faith, and showing our love to each other. Love you, Mom. And now I wish to read from her book of poems, Sorrow, Solace, and Spirituality. And she started writing even as a teenager in Germany before she was in touch with this amazing gift. And what's awesome, you're never too old to start things new. Her 2 published items, her best friends as well, were published in her 90s. So to say, I can't do it, when can I start? It's not too late. It's not too late. So I want to read, I handed out some copies of The House of Adonai. I'm going to start it in the first paragraph, and people, if you haven't wish to join, please do. There may be extra copies around or share. Says Psalm 27, Adonai is my light and my help. How can I dwell in the house of Adonai? Where do I find his habitat? It is not listed in a phone book. It is not marked on a map. If you want to join me from here. Why do I yearn to dwell in the house of Adonai? Where do I seek him? Where is his abode? Will I know when I find it? The house of Adonai is within me. The house of Adonai is around me. The still small voice rising in the sanctuary, the thunderous Amen reverberating. Children singing with innocent devotion. Rays of sun playfully painting the windows. Clouds gathering ominously in the sky. Torrential rain drenching our sukkah. Summoned by a thirst for learning, knowledge, an assemblage gathers to study your sacred texts. Questioning and challenging and being challenged. Your sparks, Adonai, are in their midst. Green leaves of an orchid plant clinging to the tree, suddenly sprouting tiny buds, seeking light, tentatively unfolding, displaying a brilliant purple, no longer dormant, awakened by Adonai. I have found the house of Adonai. I carry it with me when I walk, when I worry, and when I rejoice. The house of Adonai is within me. It brings me comfort. It gives me strength. May I never forget that I can find the house of Adonai. May I never cease to seek it. Thank you.
Let's ask Tobin if he wants to say anything. Where's Tobin? Do you want to say anything, Tobin?
Moriel and I were going to
Okay.
read this, yes.
Okay.
If I can steal that one. So I'm Tobin, Esther's grandson.
I'm Moriel, Esther's granddaughter.
This reading really resonated with me and just reminded me of how much Esther inspires us, and I'm sure everyone here and everyone she's touched. The crown of a good name, the crown of Torah, the crown of priesthood, and the crown of royalty. But the crown of a good name excels them all.
Blessed is the person who lives with a good name and departs this world with a good name.
Of such a person did the Bible say, a good name is to be treasured above precious oil.
Wealth, like health, may pass away, but a good name can live on forever.
It can adorn a person throughout life. It can be bequeathed as a precious inheritance.
Conferring honor on family and friends, inspiring and challenging those who carry on.
Therefore our ancient sages taught, the righteous need no monuments, their good deeds are their memorials.
The earth of the grave does not cover them, the hand of time does not erase them. The kindness they have shown, the love they have given, remain in everlasting remembrance.
Their achievements are more lasting than granite. Their devotion is an enduring legacy.
And now Anne will share with me and us. I have no idea what you're going to say.
Thank you, Rabbi. I'm not entirely sure either. But I'm very honored to be here with Esty and with all of you. I'm Ann Browdy, Esther's daughter-in-law, wife of her son Andy. And when I married Andy in 1997, I knew that I was gaining a formidable mother-in-law. I did not know what the course of that relationship would hold, but I knew that she took it seriously and that I better take it seriously as well. At that time in the 90s, we both were busy. She was busy being synagogue president and working with Rabbi Botnick and building the Holocaust Learning Center at Temple Torah and all the other gazillion things she was always doing. I was busy with young children, with a career, and we had a lot in common, but we did not really bond until she moved to Massachusetts after the loss of her husband, Shimon. At that time, she kind of gave up all those responsibilities, and that's when we discovered our shared passions. We both cared passionately about history, about the ways that human beings need to and can learn from history, about the importance of humanizing history through the micro narratives of individual experience, allowing people today to see history through the eyes of individuals, and in her case, through the eyes of a teenage girl in Nazi Germany. Her passion to convey that knowledge and the subsequent long life that she led through going to Palestine, building the Jewish community in the United States. Her passion as an educator was something that I shared as a teacher, and we really found that we were very much on the same wavelength and that we cared about the same things, and we started to collaborate. When she turned 95, seems like a long time ago, she said to me that she wanted me to give a lecture at Orchard Cove for her birthday, which I was happy to do. And but then she turned 96, and there was another lecture, and then 97, and there was another lecture, and then etc. Until this her 100th birthday, when instead of hearing me talk, she got to hear from many people here, all of her extended family who honored her by being called to the Torah for a Torah service that my daughter Emma helped lead at Orchard Cove. Her life was really long. It had a lot of stages, and she shared the first stage of her life in Germany, in many, many, many lectures throughout the years, to every conceivable kind of audience. She talked to Emma's middle school class, and we just got a greeting from Emma's middle school English teacher who remembered that so vividly and wanted to appreciate Esther for that. She spoke at Faneuil Hall to a gigantic audience there. She really would speak to any meaningful audience. She spoke to Hillels. She spoke to college classrooms. She spoke to assisted living on the second floor of Orchard Cove. To her, that audience was just as important as any other audience. I didn't meet her until the last stage of her life. We heard much about that first stage from her. I learned a lot about the second stage of raising her children on Long Island from my husband Andy and his siblings. And then I joined in during the Temple Torah period when I got to see that for myself. But it was really the last 12 years when she was so devoted to teaching. When she published her 2 most important books in her 90s, I don't know how many of you have published a book. It's no easy task. You don't just pull it off of the computer. It's hundreds and hundreds of edits and reviews and the care that goes into it. And she published her autobiographical novel, Best Friends, as well as this book of poetry that is really, she had published a few other books of poetry, but this one she really went through her whole life and thought about what are the poems that could relay the most important things that she had learned and wanted to communicate during every stage, whether it was when she went to Palestine for the first time she saw the Kotel, whether it was when tragedies occurred, whether it was celebrating all of the natural world that was so meaningful to her. I'm really, really grateful to Brian Marquand from the Boston Globe, who wrote such a beautiful obituary that it was featured in the Boston Globe this morning. He featured the poem that is probably her best known poem, Crystal, A Fragile Source of Beauty. IT, a fragile source of communication. He excerpted the portion of that poem that talks about Hitler's destruction and its disastrous impact on the Jewish community in Germany. For Esther, that was never, ever the end of the story. The story never ended with Hitler. Hitler never got the last word. It was the continuing life of the Jewish community and the future of the Jewish community. That was her focus. She was very upset about what's going on right now. She was so concerned about her nieces and nephews in Israel, so concerned about all of the civilian deaths that have occurred in Israel and Palestine, and so concerned about how this war could come to an end. But I just want to read for you, and I'm going to ask Esther's sons to join me in reading, let's see, there you go, Andy, the last stanzas of the poem, Crystal, a Fragile Source of Beauty, which is about Kristallnacht. I'll read the central stanza, and then I'll read with you guys the last stanza. Can broken crystal be made whole, glued? Can lost material goods be forgotten? Can broken souls mend, renew? Can life change forever, start anew? Can hatred be forgotten, forgiven? Can memories of Kristallnacht imbue us with strength, faith? Generations of Jews whose life had sparkled, who had been builders of culture, science, art, bequeathed their dreams, their hopes, aspirations to new generations, strong and determined. Crystal glass in all its beauty is bound to break. We, the inheritors of dreams, hopes, aspirations, will not be broken, will not be destroyed. And that was her hope for the future. I'll just mention one other thing really briefly. I'm a college professor. You turn me off. You have to turn me off if I talk too long. Okay.
From all my teachers, I gained wisdom.
Thank you. When Esther passed, there was a lockbox that had all her important papers in it, and Andy, her executor, opened the lockbox, and he found in there an envelope that was directed to be opened on Emma's bat mitzvah. Now that was like more than 10 years ago. And it was never opened because she was still alive. And she attended the bat mitzvah and was able to give her wishes in person. She wrote this letter when Emma was 3 years old. And she sealed it and put it with her important papers. The letter expresses her thoughts on bequeathing to Emma her talit. She had a standard prayer shawl, but she had a very special prayer shawl that was one of the first that was made explicitly for women, that was designed as a woman's talit. She was a synagogue president. She didn't have a bat mitzvah when she was growing up, but she had such Jewish learning that she didn't need one. She prepared many, many people for bat and bar mitzvah. She told Emma the story of how she acquired it. It's a long story. I hope you'll get to read it someday. And she asks at the end, what would her father, who was Orthodox, think about a woman wearing a talit? Would he be upset? And it's just as she asks in this poem, many questions. She doesn't answer them necessarily. But in this case, she answered. She said, no. He would not, in his day, have approved of a woman being called to the Torah with a prayer shawl. But he would be so proud and happy that she and her granddaughter are carrying on the traditions of Judaism, that he would have been pleased to see this prayer shawl now be passed on to Emma. So I hope you all will feel commissioned with her charge. She taught me that the Torah is a book of life for those who hold fast to it. And I will continue to do that. Thank you.
So Emma's going to sing now? B'Shem Hashem? Does everybody have that text? In different places in our prayer book, and then now, most recently, because of Shlomo Karlbach, there is a melody, B'Shem Hashem, in the name of God, B'Shem Adonai. Does everybody have that? The passed out sheet? Yes, no, maybe? It's on the sheet that has We Are Loved by an Unending Love. Okay. It's below We Are Loved. And you can see that Esther had in mind, there are ways of bringing about healing. So in one of her earlier poems, she had written, heal me, borrowing from that of Jeremiah in chapter 31, where it says, heal me, O Lord, and I shall be healed. We, the Jewish people, because we're always doing something of an upgrade, changed it in our prayer to heal us, and we shall be healed. So in this particular case, drawing upon these mystical angelic figures who somehow or another can surround us and give us measures of that. So I'm delighted I get to hear Emma give us that.
So several years ago, my grandmother said, will you sing B'Shem Hashem at my funeral? And I said, yes, but now I'm going to be sad whenever I sing the song because that's what I'm going to think about. And then this year in February, I had the opportunity to sing it for her at her 100th birthday party. So there are multiple associations with it now. And then 1 week ago when she was in hospice care, I sang for her, and she said that she's always going to be listening for me singing, whether she's on earth or upstairs, as she put it. So I'm going to sing once, and then when I repeat it, feel free to join in. But this is what she asked me to do. B'Shem Hashem Elohei Yisrael Mimini ומשמאלי גבריאל, ומלפני אוריאל, ומאחורי רפאל. ועל ראשי שכינתו, בשם השם אלוהי ישראל, מימיני מיכאל, ומשמאלי גבריאל, ומלפני אוריאל, ומאחורי רפאל. ועל ראשי שכינתו.
This is unplanned, but thank you for giving me about a minute. I am Myron Asher, Esther's nephew. It wasn't lost on me when we pulled in here this morning that while my wife Allison was navigating, say you have to pull on Queen Esther Street or Road. So I thought how appropriate that is for today. I just want to say that when my dad and my mom moved down from New Jersey, Esther and Shimon literally opened their home and their hearts to them and took care of them for a good long time, made their life much easier, and for that I will always be appreciative. And it also reminds me that her siblings, my dad Henry and Mordecai, are not here, but her brother Abe and his bride Anna, while not here physically, we know they're here in spirit and probably on Zoom this morning. So I just wanted to wish them the best on this very difficult occasion. Thank you.
Cousin Stephen.
Hi, I'm Stephen Asher. Since my parents just got a shout out, I should probably speak as well. I wanted to say a couple of things. First of all, one thing that just moved me was my Aunt Esther saying, whether I'm here or upstairs. And I was struck by her complete confidence in her goodness and in her destination. Which seems to me to be proof of a life well lived. The other brief story I wanted to tell, which I think is just a microcosm of Aunt Esther, at her 100th birthday party, I brought my daughter Mimi there. And it occurred to me that after a lifetime of hearing my father's stories about how he escaped from Germany, I had never heard Aunt Esther's story, and her story is different. She left at a different time, in a different way, and for a different place. And I thought it would be great not only for me to hear that, but also for Mimi to hear it. And so after the service, and towards the end of the lunch, I brought Mimi up to meet Aunt Esther. They had met a couple times before, and I asked her, I said just what I said to you, which is, can I hear your story? And needless to say, this wasn't the first time that Aunt Esther had told that story, including for the benefit of a child. And also, needless to say, she nailed it. She spoke for 20 minutes uninterrupted, even as other people were trying to break in and wish her happy birthday. telling every step of her journey from Kristallnacht until she got on the boat to Palestine. And it was all in perfectly composed paragraphs and really full of anecdotes which emphasized, I think, the key themes for her, not just survival, but her love of her family, and most of all, her love of Israel. And so I wanted to acknowledge that moment, which was so meaningful for me and my daughter.
So it's natural for this time for us to draw from earth from Israel and from beloved Yerushalayim. And without our necessarily singing Yerushalayim Shel Zahav, that you should know, though, that there was a large portion, not the majority, though, large portion that wanted to change the Hatikva into instead the real anthem would be Yerushalayim Shel Zahav. But if you can think about what was that, it was starting with the time of Rabbi Akiva, who said Yerushalayim Shel Zahav was a tiara. And then it became our reminder through that of Yehuda Halevi of the special meaning of what Yerushalayim could be, for us to be able to retranslate it after 1948, 1967, and now with the different kinds of ways that Israel needs to be asserting our defense has to be understood by everybody, not just the Jewish people. So in drawing from earth from Israel, the dust returns to the earth as it was, the spirit returns unto God who gave it. May the soul of Esther bat Yaakov HaKohen v'Tzipora be bound up in the bonds of life eternal. Alma Koma Tavo Shalom. Her final resting, may it be for peace, and let us say Amen. As I extend earth for those who want to add, I'll put it on your... You want to draw closer a little bit? Someone will help you. I don't want to disconnect you from that. We're meant to know first, what's the function of a Kohen? To bless people. The egalitarian spirit of Esther would understand that she was not just a bat Kohen, but she had Kohen legacy. I have plenty. Okay, Tobin. Maria. Stuart. And we're going to add earth, and whatever individual prayer or thought or meditation you wish to add, and if anybody else that is in the further areas, I have enough earth in different bags that I brought with me just in case. So allowing family members first to be able to add earth now.
Do you want us also to shuffle?
Not yet.
Okay.
We have to wait till it's lowered. Thank you for asking that. And while I have a setting here, I had certainly known the times in which for ailing moments of Esther and Shimon, I had added prayers for healing. Also at this time, I'm able to think about that of Leora bat Devora. Anybody else that wishes to partake? Yes, please. Okay. And you'll do me one more favor, Andy, for Uncle Abe. Sure. On his behalf. And I guess if you want with the other hand, you can give for Elsie. There's a wonderful bond there.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Let me clarify a little bit of rules system. The family who has ribbons on that will be in Shiva after we have said Kaddish does not go and visit any other graves. So it means then after we have memorialized Esther with memorial prayer and said Kaddish, we will then form, if Gina's here, no, she'll be coming. Okay. A double line so that those of us are able to bring comfort to the family as they walk through our midst. Once they've reached the end of the line, then I will ask other members who are not wearing ribbons to come with me to back to here. We have obviously the matzeva, that of the monument that is going to be for the two of them, right? And then we will do memorial prayer for Simon, for Shimon. Those of us who were able to rise, if you cannot, it's not critical. Right? Those who are able to rise from memorial prayer. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hamatzei Menucha Nachona Tachat Kanfei Ashchina, B'ma'alot Kadoshim U'Tahorim, Kazor Rakia Mas Hirimet Nismat Ha'isha Hamayuchedet. Esther Bat Yaakov HaKohen V'Tzipora, Shalcha Li'olama, Ba'avur Shebenei Mishpachta V'Chaveiraha, Ukihiloteha, V'olameha, Mitpalalim Baskarat Nishmata, Began Eden Tehemenuchata, Ana Bala Rachamim Astireha, Beseter Kanafecha Liolamim, Utzaror B'Tzachem Nishmata Adonai Hu Nachalata, V'Tanuach B'Shalom Mishkavav and Omar Amen. Almighty God, full of compassion, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure, to the soul of beloved Esther Bat Yaakov HaKohen V'Tzipora, Esther Asher Adler, who was gone to her eternal home. Lord, help us to remember worthy, righteous, inspiring deeds that she performed while yet in the land of the living. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life with us, the living. The Lord is her portion. May she rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. We'll take a pause so that we'll be able to add some earth that's available for us. Ask permission. That's that date and how you live. So you know the time on that. We talked about chesed, loving kindness. There are different kinds of loving kindness. They're part of the picture. One of them will be that those of us who are not wearing the ribbons will be bringing comfort to those people who are bereaved. Another one is this person can't say thank you. So we're also saying that our shovel isn't an agricultural implement, even though she loved shovels in Israel. Right? So we have an inverted shovel. Also, we don't hand the shovel to somebody else. There's no courtesy there. It's instead saying each person takes on the mitzvah and the meaning what it is to each one who takes it on. So you'll see mine and anybody else's, the first shovel is inverted. There are two shovels here, which allows us in its own way to expedite and to keep people out of the sun a little bit. So you put the shovel back into the soil, and then somebody else will take it. Our goal is to cover up the casket itself, and then, as some of us remember, I had books that we buried when Shimon died. So we will have then that members of the family can add those once we have covered the top of the casket.
Could you just explain why we're burying the books?
Yes, because the name of God is one that we say is ineffable, is one that's not fully pronounceable, and we can't just write it out, and we can't erase it. So the best way we can do with that of a prayer book, or a Torah, or a mezuzah, is that we will bury it because it has its own holy quality to it. Thank you for asking that. So those who are now going forward to add, take care of your back a little bit, please, for those of us who have to be safeguarding.
If anybody would like to come on this side, use that shovel.
You can also call it it's not the purple. It's still the name of God.
Cemetery, guys.
Right? It will draw you a little bit closer so you can add a book as well. Are there others coming forward just to help us cover the top of the casket?
Go around to the other side, to the other side.
Lift it higher if you want. Yes, there we go. That's perfect. tell her reading that we read in the Shabbat? It says, write down this poem. Do you remember that? Again with the second Torah portion. It says, no, it says write down this poem. It says write down this poem. God through Moses says, write down this poem. Says, okay, we'll do it. All right, let me give some members of the family a chance. First. I couldn't know you would be here. If on the other hand you wish it, then yeah, that's right. So I'll give you another one. Okay, I'm going to keep it. Absolutely. I was asked to handle all of you here. So by the time you get home, get this one. The believing one, I found one that was Rabbi Sam George and two Rabbi.
Just tossing in?
No. Gina is going to help us now form two double lines facing each other. We'll be walking through our midst. If you're wearing ribbons, just tell me which side is best one.
I think this side.
Thank you.
Yes,
Okay.
that one has the tree. So.
All right, there's some extra water here that I brought in case someone must have.
Yeah, we'll form two lines right here. If you're a mourner, you're not in the line. You're walking through it.
You bring comfort.
Yeah, so everybody else, you can form two lines.
Jerry, can you get this person on that thing? Jerry?
Again, if you're wearing the ribbon, you're not forming the line.
Emma, wherever you are, you're bringing comfort, so if the sun is not good for you. All right, Faye and Andy and Jerry, please, coming through. The reading that's extended to mourners, and we're aware that 5 o'clock is the end of Shabbat. At the end of the 30-day period is Yom Kippur, just like that. Hamakom Yenachem Etchem, the Tov Shahar Avalei Tzion Shalayim. May the all-merciful comfort and sustain you among the other mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. As the family is coming through, and I'm exempting then Gina from the rest, others of the family not wearing the ribbons, but you will have it audible to you, will be memorializing your father Shimon of blessed memory as well. Can I have family members to come back to here, or just simply remaining in place for Shimon? As long as you can hear it. במעלות קדושים וטובים, וזרקי המעשירים את נשמת רב שמעון בן צבי ברחל, שהלך לעולמו, בעבור שבני משפחתו וחבריו וקהילותיו, מתפללים בהזכרת נשמתו, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתו. אנא בעל הרחמים אסתירהו, בסתר פדתך לעולמים, וצרורדת שבני נשמתו רנאיהו נחל לטוב. May their souls be bound up in the bond of life with us, the living. The Lord is their portion. May they rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. They from the grave would be wishing you to have a Shana Tova, and somehow or another with Nechama, with comfort, and with Simcha, and Shalom al Yisrael. We can all find our ways. I have to retrieve my shares for back home again.